Welcome back to SportsLine, everybody. It is the eve of the NFL Draft tomorrow night in Chicago, and our man, the best sportscaster in all of Nashville, Steve Layman, is in Chicago to cover it for us. Steve joins us now. Steve, you become the king of Chicago. I know you're originally from the great state of Illinois, but with the Predators playoff series against the Blackhawks and now the NFL Draft, you're back in Chi-Town, my man. You own that town.
Yeah, I don't know if I own it or if I'm the king, but I certainly could apply for residency at this point.
Well, describe what the town is like. What's the buzz like in Chicago? What's it been like 51 years since the NFL Draft has been in the Windy City, and everything gets going tomorrow? But I know there was a lot of activity today.
Yeah, John, 51 years since the NFL Draft has been anywhere other than New York City. And so I think that's where the big buzz is. Yeah, Chicago's excited about it, but I think there's a lot of people around the country, certainly around the Midwest, that think, hey, the draft is drivable this year. You know, we're Packers fans, we're Vikings fans, we're Bengals fans, Colts fans, you name it, that now think this is a drivable destination to come hang out for the weekend and find out who these coveted picks that are heading to their town to help their favorite NFL team out. And because of that, it's just a really cool setup. And Mayor Rahm Emanuel here and the city of Chicago has rolled out the red carpet, if you will, for Roger Goodell and the NFL. They've, besides having the theater, the auditorium theater on the Roosevelt campus, they've created a draft town, if you will, in Grant Park, the huge park right here off of Lakeshore Drive in downtown Chicago. And they've got football fields, they've got interactive games, they've got a huge area where people can watch the picks, even if they're not inside at Auditorium Theater. So it's just going to be a massive humanity of people hanging out and enjoying the draft over those couple of days. And they're trying to make it a party-like atmosphere, because as one NFL executive told me earlier today when talking about this, he said, look, we realized that the last few years at the Radio City Music Hall, by the time we got to Sunday, or to Saturday, and rounds 4 through 7, there would be television shots panning through the audience and finding people who were sleeping. And that's what the last day of the NFL Draft had become. And this year, they're not even going to have the draft inside the theater on the final day, so it's truly going to be a party in the park on Saturday and ramp up the energy on what is normally the slow day of the NFL Draft.
Yeah, it's really become the off-season Super Bowl, the NFL Draft. All right, a lot of talk going around. We just spoke to John Glennon of the Tennessean about what the Titans might do. Of course, the report of the Browns offering their 2 first-round picks, 12th and 19th, plus some more in a package to move up to 2 so they could take Marcus Mariota. It seems like indications are that the Titans will stay at 2 and they will actually take Marcus Mariota, and by all indications, they may keep him. Now, we don't know what's going to happen once they make the pick. There could be a draft, but are you surprised? I mean, you and I have talked about this both publicly and privately about what the Titans might do. I thought they would trade down to get more picks or take Leonard Williams, who you spoke to today. We'll get to that in a minute, but it's starting to look like they're going to take the Oregon Duck now. Are you surprised?
Yeah, I guess maybe a little bit, JB. But I'll tell you what, at this point, with this draft and this pick, I'm not surprised no matter what happens tomorrow night, because a few weeks ago I would have told you that I think this team for sure staying put and they're going defense and drafting Leonard Williams. And then I thought for sure it was going to be a trade. And yesterday, going to that press conference with GM Rustin Webster and head coach Ken Whisenhunt, after listening to them talk, I walked out of that room convinced that they were staying put at number 2, nothing you could offer them would make them move, and that they were taking Marcus Mariota with that second pick. And now today you hear all this stuff about the Browns. They're going to roll out the red carpet and give everything that they can in order to try to move up and take the pick. And so now I kind of wonder, was that all a smokescreen yesterday? Was that just the show to tell everybody, yeah, we're serious about Mariota? How serious are you that you would come up and try to pry him out of our hands because we want him so much? So maybe it's all just a big game, and I think it's going to be fascinating. And that's why, to me, the most important pick, the most intriguing pick of the entire NFL Draft, whether you're in Nashville or Tennessee or around the country, is what happens at number 2 tomorrow night, because in a lot of ways, what the Titans decide to do or what they want to do is going to determine all the dominoes that follow in this weekend's NFL Draft.
Steve Layman from News Channel 5 Sports joining us here on SportsLine. All right, first of all, I applaud the Browns, if this is true, for trying to make this move. You know, I'm a person that follows the Browns, not necessarily a fan, but I'd like to see them get better. They've just been, other than a couple of decent years, they've been pretty dormant since they came back to the league in 1999. I applaud them for trying to make the move to get their quarterback. They finally realized we need a quarterback or we're not going to win. So if that happens and the Titans are able to work out a trade, I say bravo to the Cleveland Browns. Let's say that doesn't happen. Let's say the Titans stay at 2 and they take Mariota and they keep him. This is a question I asked John Glennon last segment. In your mind, is this an indication of how much they love Marcus Mariota, or that they're not 100% sold on Zach Mettenberger, or they just haven't seen enough from Mettenberger to say, yeah, he's our guy?
I think probably a combination of all of the above. Mm-hmm. I think if they're truly staying there and taking Marcus Mariota, they walked away more impressed from the individual workouts and the chalk talks and all of those sort of things than we were led to believe originally, number one. And two, I think probably the last thing you said, that while they like Zach Mettenberger, they only got a small sample. They only got 6 starts last year before he got hurt, and he never won a game. His numbers were okay. He showed some flashes, but he didn't win you football games. He didn't do anything that popped off the stat sheet.
Right.
So if you're going to stick your horse or hitch your wagon, I guess, if you will, behind that guy, that's awfully risky when you're talking about a 6th-round pick, who, by the way, everybody had a real big problem with all the injuries that Jake Locker suffered in his career.
Right.
And, look, that became a problem. But we do realize now that Zach Mettenberger has had his last 2 seasons end with season-ending injuries, right? I mean, he tore his ACL to end his career at LSU.
Right.
He missed the last month of last year with the shoulder injury. That's not to say he's injury-prone or that it'll happen all the time in the NFL for him or that he's not tough or anything. But it's amazing how, depending on your mind frame with the guys, you conveniently forget some of those things. So that also may be playing in their mind. And just how healthy is this guy? Just how healthy can he remain in this league? So we may have to take insurance. And as one person put it the other day, when you have the number 2 pick, if you think you have a franchise quarterback there, you've got to take him. Because if you don't, and he goes on and stars someplace else, and you continue to have a revolving door and instability at quarterback, you're not going to have your job very long if you're a general manager or a head coach.
I am fascinated by this, Steve. I don't know about you. I am intrigued by this. I'm going to have trouble sleeping tonight figuring out what the Titans are going to do. This is in the last couple of days, this really has become an intriguing situation, hasn't it?
Yeah, it really has. And I'll tell you another thing, John, when it comes to the trade that I find really fascinating in terms of what the Browns are potentially offering. Everybody says the 12th and the 19th pick. If you listen to Russell Webster talk yesterday, he said that when they graded out this first round, they had about 16 or 17 guys that they thought were bona fide, legit first-round players. They said it's not a very deep first round this year, and so you got to be careful to go too far down where you can't get that guy.
Right.
The guy that you feel still has that value. Well, the Browns are offering 12 and 19. So if you only think there's 16 or 17 first-round grades out there, do you think you can still get one of those guys at 19? Now, some people will draft for need and all that, so it's unlikely that if you have 17 first-round grades, those are the first 17 guys off the board.
Right.
But that's a bit of a risk if you're going to 19 that you're still going to get one of those guys. So that's the other intriguing thing here is 12 and 19 may look really good to some people, especially if you maybe throw in a third or a fourth or both along with that. But for this Titans team in this particular year, in this first round, that doesn't appear to be overly deep, is that enough?
Wow. This is amazing stuff. All right, Steve Layman joining us from Chicago. He's covering the NFL draft for us. Look for his reports tomorrow on News Channel 5 all day, and I do mean all day. They're gonna work you hard tomorrow, Steve, as you know. But I know it's a labor of love for you and me. All right, you had a chance to talk to some of the potential first-rounders that were kind of getting the grand tour yesterday. I know you had a one-on-one interview with Leonard Williams. What were your impressions of the big defensive lineman out of USC?
Leonard Williams was terrific today. He is a gregarious guy that will talk your ear off when you get up next to him. Just a really friendly, personable guy. And he's kind of got that USC Stars mentality, if you will. He's a great football player. And that's the other thing everybody talks about is when you look at Leonard Williams, he is probably pound for pound the best player in this draft, and he's probably the closest thing to a can't miss in this draft. A lot of people like Winston, a lot of people like Mariota, but just about everybody says Leonard Williams is going to be a star in the NFL. And so to me, I think he's another really intriguing guy. You bring in Dick LeBeau, you shore up those outside linebackers in free agency with Brian Arakpo and bringing back Derek Morgan. How about putting a guy like Leonard Williams up on the defensive line right next to his Trojan buddy in Darrell Casey? That's a pretty formidable duo at the front of your 3-4. I had a lot of fun talking to him today. He played in the 3-4 his last couple of years at USC, so he's probably more versed. I think that's one of the criticisms, actually, is people see defensive end and they wonder how he fits in. That's what he did at USC. So I think he actually fits in very well to this defense if that's where they want to go. He's got the size, he's got the strength, he's got the power, he's got the motor to play at this level. So I walked away very, very impressed from my meeting with Leonard Williams today.
Steve, great stuff. I know you're going to have another report for us tonight over on News Channel 5 at 10 o'clock. We look forward to that. In the meantime, get some of that pizza you like, although it's not New York style, which is another matter for another day. Get some rest. I know you got a big day tomorrow covering the draft for us. Great stuff today.
John, we appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you soon, buddy.
All right. Steve Layman, my partner in crime here at News Channel 5, joining us on the eve of the NFL draft. He'll be covering the draft for us all day long tomorrow on News Channel 5. Time for another break. We'll come back with more. Your phone calls. Looks like it's going to be Mariota. You good with that, Titans fans? I want to hear from you. We're back after this.